Welcome to the On Pace podcast. Today we are talking with Kayla Bowker, who is a triathlon athlete as well as a certified triathlon and running coach. Her passion lies in helping others find strength and faith in themselves through helping them reach their goals in triathlon and running events. She's a two-times Konya finisher and founder of Where Your Feet Take You. How you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
So how'd you get into triathlons?
Oh man, I got into triathlon in about 2013. A lot of like most people, I was kind of going through some crap. Kind of really lost within myself, not really knowing what I wanted to do with my life, having just gotten through kind of a really bad breakup, just really dealing with a lot of stuff that honestly most people end up dealing with sometime in their life. And I was finding that I needed an outlet to try to, find myself again, so to speak. And through that, I just saw online that there was a triathlon here in Spokane, and I was like, you know what? That sounds hard. I'm going to give that a try. And kind of jumped into it, trained myself, took myself to the race, and fell in love with it in the middle of the bike ride and said, this is what I need to be doing. And signed up for another one immediately after and qualified
that's always how it goes, isn't it?
Yep. Qualified for age group nationals, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And here we are, wow, 5-6 years later, and I've been able to turn it into a career. So it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, that always seems to be the reason that people get into the long distance sports, is to find and reinvent themselves and really help.
And that's what I needed to do at the time. I was living in a very internally negative space where I wasn't really believing in myself anymore. I wasn't believing in anybody really. I just was going through the motions and kind of hating everything that was going on, and feeling that it was because of my external environment that was causing this. But really
it's never like that, is it? It's always the internal.
It was 100% my internal environment that was something I needed to change. And sport has always been a way that, not even necessarily sport, but just pushing myself to the point where you think you're going to break, has always been a way that I have refound myself. I grew up in this atmosphere where my parents always pushed us to be stronger, better, faster, smarter. And they have this, they like to do things where they're pushing themselves outside their comfort zone. And so that's something that's always been a piece. And I just kind of turned to it when I needed it and realized exactly that it was my internal environment that I needed to change. And by doing so, I was able to start to find peace with myself and then change my external environment because I changed the internal. So
yeah, and now you have like a bunch of people that you coach, and you have, well, what I read from you, oops, what I read was you have 14 triathlon athletes.
Yeah, I actually
5 runners.
So that has grown. So I launched my business last year. So my business is just about a year old, and since then I have now grown to where I have 2 different levels of triathlon coaching. So I have a one-on-one, more. It's my higher ticket item, I guess you could say. A lot more hands-on coaching, and that is my biggest number. It's my level 1, and I have 20 athletes there. And then I introduced a second level, which is level 2, in the hopes to be able to reach more people, because I know that sometimes triathlon coaching is expensive and it's not always easy to kind of fork that over. But I wanted to be able to reach more people, help more people through triathlon and finding passion in themselves and being able to change this internal environment and make their external a lot better. So I opened up a second level, which is monthly coaching. So it's a little less hands-on, and it's a little bit cheaper because of that. And then just recently I launched a running ebook as well. So I'm expanding, which is really exciting.
And that's all through Where Your Feet Take You, or?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool.
It's a lot of fun. It's something I wanted to do my entire life. I remember when I was in high school, my mom and I were driving back from some sort of sports thing. Who knows what it was. She was kind of just talking about what I want to do when I grew up. And I wanted to start my own business of some sort. And I wanted it to be in sports. At the time, it was more of like a holistic health facility where it had physical therapy clinics and sports clinics and just this whole big concept. Obviously, that
You're
has
basically
changed.
telling my story right now.
Yeah. Yep. And so I went away from that path for quite some time. And a couple, two-ish years ago, I turned to my husband and said, it's time. I need to be doing this. This is my passion. This is what I want to be doing. We need to make it work. And so kind of jumped into it and went for it. So
Yeah, everything else feels so forced when you don't really want to be doing it. So I know exactly the mentality. I'm pretty sure like you're over the moon to help people reach their goals, and
yeah,
everything else is just bleh.
exactly. The silly little cliche saying of, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life is very true. Um, I enjoy every minute of it. So
Yeah, that's the same way I feel with this podcast. Is like everybody I'm talking to, I just can't wait to start talking to them because everybody's story is so
right.
inspiring and inspirational, and it makes me all fired up and more motivated towards my goals.
Yep. And
So,
that's one of the cool things about one of the things I love about triathlon actually is this idea that everybody is so motivating and we're all on the same journey, but we all go through it differently. And by sharing our story, we then can help motivate other people to do the same. And so it's just this really cool atmosphere where it is very motivating and uplifting to watch other people's journeys. So
yeah, that's the long distance athlete mentality is we're all trying to help each other get better.
yep.
Nobody really wants to push each other down just because we all know how much it takes to finish those races. It's months and months of preparation, and you
Yep,
want to
exactly.
help support your fellow athletes get through it.
Yes. Yes, you do.
So what races stand out to you that you've competed in?
I have, wow, I have a couple. I actually had someone ask me that just not too long ago. Um, I think for me, it's really comes down to two. Specifically, one is Ironman Arizona, which was my first full Ironman. And that holds a special place in my heart for a couple of reasons. One, it was my first full Ironman. It's just, there's something special about those. That race that day, the first time you cross that finish line is something you'll never ever forget. But for me, it was very special because it was a race that honestly I wasn't sure I was going to get to the finish line. I had surgery at the beginning of the end of the previous year on my hip and had recovered from that to try to get myself ready for Ironman Coeur d'Alene, which is here local to Spokane. And then a month out of that race, had been hit by a car and broke my ankle and had some ligament damage and a lot of soft tissue damage and some burns and stuff that I had to force me to bow out of Ironman Coeur d'Alene. And then at the last minute, my husband signed me up for Ironman Arizona because he said, there's no way you're not going to be an Ironman in 2016. And I was cleared to start running and training again mid-September. And November, like, what is it, 24th or whatever, I lined up for Ironman Arizona, and I had probably one of the best races of my life. I ended up taking first in my age group and qualifying for my first Kona.
Nice.
And so it's just one of those ones that really stands out because it was one where it was a serious journey to get there. And I really never just really gave up on myself. And more importantly, other people didn't give up on me. And being able to utilize that and help get me to the start line was really big. And then the second one was probably Kona that next year, my first Kona. I have never wanted to quit something so bad in my entire life. I had gotten really sick the week of the race, and while I felt better, let me tell you, doing a Ironman in Kona while you're sick is not the best option.
I can only imagine.
I just had nothing left to give. And I wasn't anywhere near what I thought I was going to be doing. I was in the mile, 20 of the marathon, and all I wanted to do was walk. I've never walked a marathon in my life. And I just thought I was disappointing everybody out there, and I was disappointing myself, and I was failing everybody. I've never before wanted to just stop and give up, and I wanted to so badly. And then I ran across my husband, and he was able to talk some sense into me, and I got myself through the final 8 miles to cross that finish line for my first Kona. And while it definitely was not the race I thought it was going to be or the race I trained for, I ended up never giving up on myself in that, and being able to turn my mindset around from wanting to quit and wanting to give up on myself and give up on all the people that support me, and being able to turn that around was very powerful for moving forward and looking, being able to use that in the rest of my life. And so while it is definitely not my best result, it is one I am very proud of. So
I have a similar experience with that, and it's the one that I like think about the most, because you overcome so much in that race. Now you know that no matter what, you're just going to be able to overcome whatever happens.
Yep, you can always use that when you are, deep in that hurt locker, mile 22 of a marathon, and really struggling to remember why you did something. You can always turn back to those past obstacles that you've overcome and utilize them to get yourself through it.
So what race sticks out as the worst, the one that's kind of haunts you a little bit?
Honestly, I don't know any really do. Probably, while it's also one, probably that first Kona as well.
Double up.
Yeah, just because it was very disappointing for me. I worked very hard to be there, and I didn't feel like I deserved to be on that start line. And so, so because of that, it definitely haunted me for an entire year. I ended up immediately signing up for another one because I wanted revenge, so to speak.
Redeem.
I wanted to prove that I deserved to be on that start line. And then I ended up being able to do that and qualified again for the second year. And it still stuck with me all the way until I got to Kona for the second year, where I still questioned every day whether I really deserved to be on that start line. And I felt like I had something to prove. So while that race is definitely one that stands out for a lot of good reasons, I would say that it probably is the one that haunted me the most.
How did the second Konya? Why can't I say it? What's wrong with me?
Much better. I ended up putting together probably one of my strongest, while not my absolute fastest full Ironman distance, probably my absolute strongest. And if you compare environments and everything, I still would probably actually call it one of my fastest full distance Ironmans. It was the day I needed. It was everything that I worked for, and I was able to put it together.
So kind of, you said you obviously have more than athletes than I said before. How many of them have you brought to like a high level? How many have you brought from not doing anything at all to doing their first triathlons? What's the experience like working with new athletes compared to experienced ones?
Yeah, it's we have a very versatile team. So we've definitely got people who have never done triathlons, to a couple that easily could be Kona qualifiers if they put together the race that I know that they're capable of. So it's a lot of fun to be able to work with a wide range. And I can't really say that I prefer to work with one or the other, because it's just fun to see everybody change and everybody grow, because no matter who you are, you're always growing. So we definitely have, I don't know if I can quantify any numbers for you, but I'd say that the team is definitely a wide range of newbies to people who have been doing, they're working towards a legacy slot at Kona, as well as, other people who are definitely vying for 70.3 world champs and then Kona world champs as well. And I enjoy working with everybody. It's one of those things where no matter who you are, we all have these struggles. And so being able to work through each person's struggle and help them to improve as an athlete is really the whole reason I do it. So it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a Kona qualifier. It's just a lot of fun to work with them.
Yeah, it's really nice to help somebody out with a new goal that they took on and actually get them through a race. I've helped out a few people, and it's so rewarding to see how much it affects their lives and changes it.
Exactly. And for me, again, it doesn't matter your ability. We all have a journey that we're going on in whatever ability that we have. And so just being able to be a part of that journey is, it's why I started coaching.
So what's a training routine like for a triathlon? I'm all road and trails, so I don't know too much about the training regimen for what you guys have to put into it. How do you balance the swimming, running, and biking, and how do you make an importance over one or the other based on your own abilities?
Oh, wow. That's a complex question. We could probably talk for.
I'm actually very interested in it, so
We could probably talk for a long time on that.
that's a personal question of mine.
Yeah, it really also kind of depends on who the athlete is and where they are and their goals and what they're training, what phase of training they're in, what time their race is in. And so we just really have to try to balance, one, we have to swim, bike, and run, as well as include, strength training, mobility, mindset training. You got to focus on your nutrition. There are so many pieces to triathlon. And that is actually why hiring a coach is so important, is because we can help take those pieces away and we can help you on the back end so that you have less stress of trying to build this on your own. Trying to balance it all is, you have to look at the person's, what their commitment is. You have to look at what kind of work schedule they might have, what kind of family schedules they might have, as well as, what type of, if they have a pool that they can only get to on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then you can have to balance it that way. So there's a lot of little pieces that go and are involved with it. And trying to figure out, sometimes what you'll do is you'll do, maybe a swim block, or maybe you'll do a running block or a biking block, where you focus a little bit more on that one specific block. Again, this is very dependent on what phase of training the person is in. And so it's very, very dependent on the person, the phase, and their goals and what races they have scheduled. So that is why, as a coach, I definitely specify that my training plans there is no blanket plan. There is no template that you really can work from. And everything is customized 100% to you as an athlete, because there are so many little intrinsic pieces that have to be meshed together in order to create a successful plan, so that the athlete feels strong and confident and not overwhelmed and overworked. It's a little hard to probably explain just straight off the cuff.
I already have like the most difficult time just balancing my running. If I had to add in biking and swimming, I think I would go half insane.
It's it's a little easier than it seems, because when you train for a triathlon, your volume is still up there, but it is different from like training for a full marathon, where a full marathon, a lot of times runners will try to get in 60, 70, 80 miles in a week. Well, for a full Ironman, or even just a half Ironman, or honestly just a sprint, you don't have to get that same volume in. I am definitely a quality over quantity type coach. And so
It's the
I
same way
definitely
I am.
specify and prefer high quality workouts that you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck versus trying to fit in huge, large amounts of volume, especially because most of my athletes are age group athletes. They work, they have families, they are doing this for fun. They're doing this because it's a challenge. They're not doing this to make any money. And so you do this for that idea of quantity over quality. Sorry, I keep saying it wrong. Quality over quantity, and trying to make it so that there's still a good balance.
I had a talk yesterday with a ultra marathoner nicknamed Frenchie, and they said his wife told him to get rid of his garbage miles he was putting in all his training, and just running too much and not having a purpose to the training. And
yes, yep. Each workout needs to have a purpose. And there are different, there's different concepts behind that. I mean, it may seem, you've got your workouts that are meant for recovery, your workouts that are meant for strength building and interval building, VO2 max building, so there are different purposes behind each workout, and you just have to try to mesh those all together based off of where the athlete is in their training.
Yeah. You got to focus on high intensity work sometimes, and sometimes you have to put in those long sessions, but not.
Yep.
Don't try to mix them together, really.
Yep.
So how about the gear in triathlon? How important is that kind of stuff?
It's definitely important. I mean, you can't do a triathlon without a bike.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely important. However, at the same time, you don't have to have the best gear to get started or even be decent at it. I got started on my mom's old touring bike that she rode when her and my dad traveled through Europe for 4 months in the summer. This bike had crotch rocket gears. It had a rack on the back for luggage. It didn't have clip-ins, and it was aluminum, and it weighed more than I did, and it was older than I am. So you do not have to have the most high-end gear when it comes to getting started or even doing decently. You just really kind of have to have the want. Now, eventually, you do need to upgrade. But I usually tell people, especially if there's someone who's just getting started in it, there are a few things that are the most important. Number one is hire a coach. A coach is the most important thing that you can spend your money on when it comes to triathlon, because they're going to help guide you in the right direction. They're going to help protect you from getting injured, as well as they're a good sounding board. They take stress off of you as trying to manage it. They are someone who can calm you down when maybe you're being a little ridiculous, or tell you to buck up when you need to. And so there's a lot of pieces that a coach can really do for you. So a coach is worth every penny when it comes to triathlon. So getting a coach is the first one.
It's probably the most important for most people starting out.
Yep. Then you need a bike, and it probably doesn't have to be the most expensive bike, but you do need a bike. And then you need running shoes and a wetsuit and a place to swim. Those are kind of your 5 things that you really need. And then you could complete a triathlon with all those pieces. There are a lot of other things that make it a lot easier, like a bike trainer, which can be really helpful, especially for working people, because it makes it easy to just hop on at 4 a.m. if that's when you have to do things. And then, your nutrition and all these other pieces, but it doesn't have to be as expensive as a lot of people make it. So
yeah, a lot of people get a little bit too obsessed with the gear, but if you're competing in your first triathlon, you're not going to be competing for a top position. So it's just more important on getting something that works and finishing, isn't it?
Yep. And that's the other piece, a coach can help you with, is once they work with you, they can tell you when it's time to upgrade. They can tell you, what, okay, we've gotten you here. In order for you to take it to the next level, you need a power meter. Or in order for you to take it to the next level, what, maybe we need to get you onto a different bike that's a little less heavy. Or we need to upgrade your trainer. They will help you to guide you to pick the right pieces. So.
Nice. So what type of people have inspired you to get in triathlon, or like because you're pretty into the coaching aspect, was there any coaches that like stood out to you and you look up to, like you base your coaching style on?
Honestly, my own coach.
Your own?
Yeah, I started working with my coach. I think we've been working together for 3 years now. And she's definitely one of my biggest inspirations as a coach. I love how her and I have a great working relationship, and I love the relationship that we have built, as well as I agree with her coaching style, obviously, since I work with her. um, and so she's definitely probably one of my biggest, people that I look up to as a coach. And then over the years, I've met quite a few other ones. I have a business coach that is also a triathlon coach that I worked with. And through that, her and I become really good friends, and I look up to her from that standpoint. And so it's one of the other cool things about triathlon and in the coaching industry is, for the most part, everybody just wants you to succeed and wants your business to succeed and is not afraid to provide information to help you with it. And I do think that's actually something that there needs to be more of. Sometimes there's this idea that our work is so proprietary and we have to keep our specific workouts are so specific. We're the ones that created it. But in reality, they're no different than anything else anybody else created. I mean, I did some of these similar workouts, and the workouts that I create are what I learned when I was in college. I mean, everybody can do 400s and create a plan with 400s. And so I definitely have seen in the last like 2 years, just as I've gotten more into the coaching scene, that has seemed to expand in this idea of providing information to help other coaches grow has grown as well. So,
So before you started doing triathlons, you were an assistant to a physical therapist, right?
yeah. So before I started, well, actually, before I was in triathlon, when I graduated college with a biology degree, wanting to go into physical therapy. And so I was working at a physical therapy clinic for 5 years maybe, and then was having a hard time getting into physical therapy school, and had to make kind of was at this like crossroads time frame where I needed to make a decision if I was going to continue down this path and have to maybe go back to school and redo some stuff and get some different schooling done in order to actually get into physical therapies, or if I wanted to just go away from it and experience something else. And I ended up choosing to go a different route. And then I got into the manufacturing world and program management world for a little while, and realized that while I loved program managing, I actually really did love it. It was not my passion, and that's why I decided to start my own coaching business. So,
Yeah. A lot of people feel trapped in like jobs like that and like they can't escape them.
yep, it was I just didn't feel like there was room for me to grow. And I always wanted to start my own business. And honestly, it was just time. I kind of just took a leap of faith and decided it was time to go for it.
And you said before that your husband like really supported you in doing that, right? Like pushed you into it.
Yeah, he definitely. I couldn't do any of this without my husband. I'm very blessed to have someone who understands my crazy and supports my crazy. He is there for every single race. He helps push me, motivate me to be faster, stronger, a better triathlete, all of it. And is always on board with my crazy little goals and schedules that I decide. And so when I decided I wanted to go into be a triathlon coach, he was all on board with it. He said, if that's what you want, and we're at a good place in our life financially where we can let you kind of go for it and see what will happen. And so I went for it, and I think I surprised even him with how well it did. So.
Yeah. So what are some of your goals for the upcoming future for, well, races and coaching?
For racing, well, for coaching, I want to continue to expand my business. I'd love to take on a couple more athletes, as well as put some more programs out there. I have some kind of goals with, or some programs that are in the works, to be able to provide help for people and more programs that are just outside of triathlon coaching. nutrition and mindset coaching type stuff, so that we can really work to help the people as a whole and not just specifically in triathlon.
Yeah.
So I'm always working to continue to grow Where Your Feet Take You and take it to new routes and growth and everything. I want to continue to grow as a coach and to become one of the high-end coaches. I'm only a year into this, and so I need to just remember to be a little bit patient, which is not always easy.
It's the mentality of a long distance athlete. It's you kind of jump headfirst into things.
I definitely have a tendency to do that, jump headfirst into it. So I'm excited to see where Your Feet Take You, what it can do. It's definitely, there's a lot of potential and sky's the limit. And I definitely will be working on, always trying to reach that limit with my business and as an athlete. My goals as an athlete definitely changed this year. I previously...
It's hard to keep, yeah. It's like the balance, isn't it?
No, not at all, actually. I had plans to requalify for Kona again this year, but I found out about a month ago that I'm pregnant this year. So
okay.
Our family is expanding, and so I had to make some changes with my goals for the 2019 season. So it'll be more about just staying fit and getting through a healthy pregnancy, I guess you could say. I am still racing, which is really awesome. So it's going to be a little bit of a different year, more focusing on staying strong and being able to help kind of break through some of the stigmas with women in pregnancy and athletes who are women in pregnancy, and move towards this idea that women are not fragile just because they're pregnant, but rather that they are strong and able to do anything that they want as long as they are smart and listen to their bodies. I definitely found like immediately within announcing it that it was instantaneous, that I needed to stop chasing my dreams and I needed to put my life on hold. And that was not okay to me. And it is not okay that there's this thought process for women that the second they are pregnant, their life has to be put on hold because they're raising a child. That's not what a life I want to bring a child into. I want to bring them into one where they watch their mom and dad chase their dreams and chase their passions, just like I watched my parents do that. And so that is now the goal of 2019, is to really share this journey with other people and try to bring about this change of women in sport and mothers in sport, and this idea that a child doesn't mean you can't chase your dreams. In fact, it means you should chase them harder so that you can help grow and teach this child to do the same thing. So
that's perfect.
2019 has changed.
Well, that's a common mentality from people about everything almost, though, is you shouldn't, or you won't, or just always telling you that you shouldn't be doing something even when you're doing it and showing that you can be doing it. Yep. And still somehow you shouldn't be doing it, even though you're healthy, thriving, happy, and your life's getting better. You shouldn't be doing that.
Right. Yeah. And it doesn't make sense that that's a mentality or a thought process at all. So
it's weird that it's so consistent too, because there's so many people proving that that's not the case, but people still have that mentality and they try to push that mentality on you. Exactly. But I guess it's just because they don't want to do it themselves.
Yeah. Or just they don't believe in themselves to be able to do it. And I'd like to change that as well too, to be able to turn naysayers into people who believe in themselves. And so that's a whole part of Where Your Feet Take You as well, is really trying to change that stigma and that thought mentality.
How'd you come up with the name for that?
I came up with it, honestly, I was on a run and it had snowed the night before, and I could see my feet in the snow, and all I could think about was that my feet have taken me on some crazy journeys, and that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, I've had some of those thoughts. I love when you get out in the fresh new snow and there's no other feet. Right. I love looking back and knowing, like, someone is going to come out and see that I was the first one to put tracks here.
Yep, exactly.
I love that. I like that, having that mentality of being the first to do something, and
Yep.
I'm sure you do too.
Yes. Yep. Always.
So you have anything like extra message you want to broadcast to some people? And make sure to let people know where they can hire you for coaching and any sponsors that you might have.
Yeah. I guess for me, the one thing to really share it is my whole number one belief, and I've definitely alluded to it as we've talked, is that if you have a dream or a passion, don't be afraid to chase it. Because if it's something that if you can't stop thinking about it, then it's totally worth going for. I feel like there's way too many people often and nowadays that are so afraid of chasing their dreams because it maybe isn't what society says that they should be doing, or it's not what they thought about themselves. But that doesn't mean that it's not correct or it's not the right journey to be doing. So don't be afraid of your dreams. Don't be afraid of your passions, because you never know what they're going to take you. That's whole part of the journey. And if you don't necessarily even know where you want to be going or what those dreams are, that's okay too. It's okay to explore, and it's okay to find what you don't want to be doing as you walk through that journey. So I guess just don't be afraid to chase your passions. It's the number one thing that I want everybody to always remember.
It's okay to get out there and find out who you are.
Exactly.
You don't have to sit around wondering who you can be.
Yep. If you sit around wondering, you'll never actually find out.
Yeah, and that's one of the worst feelings in the world.
Yes, it is. And where to find me? My website is whereyourfeetttakeyou.com. That is where I've got a great blog on there that's posts a lot of information about not only my journey, but just information to learn and be helpful when it comes to triathlon and running. And then Instagram is a really great place to find me, and that is where your feet take you, with underscores in there. If you type where your feet take you into Instagram, you'll find me.
I'll make sure to post it on the bio on the website as well, so people know.
And that's a really great place to find me. If anyone ever direct messages me, I usually am pretty good at responding. So, yeah. And from a sponsor standpoint, we've definitely got some great sponsors for Where Your Feet Take You that I could not do without. And from Infinite, which is my nutrition sponsor, Irwin Cycling for wheels, Roca, freshly minted socks, which they're some of the coolest and most awesome socks. And really, for more than anything, the people, my husband, my family, and all my friends, and I guess just even my followers on Instagram, who motivate me and support me and believe in this journey, and I get to watch theirs as well, and that motivates me more than honestly anything else. So I can't ever thank these people enough. So
great. Thanks, Kayla.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, we have been speaking with Kayla Bowker. Bowker, right?
Yes.
On the On Pace podcast. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing with us. You can find us at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at On Pace Podcast, Twitter at Pace Podcast, and www.onpacepodcast.com. Thanks again.
Welcome to the On Pace Podcast.